Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, the financial education brand that wants to make everyone a little bit more financially literate through the budding cannabis industry. And today we're going to cover the recent earnings releases of Trueleaf, Curaleaf, and Cresco Labs. So before we start, if at any point you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up as it helps out my channel and the algorithm. And of course, if you don't want to miss any episode of ETF breakdowns or earnings releases like this that I'll cover, or every Sunday I drop This Week in Cannabis, which covers the week prior. Please make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any new episodes. And if you've yet to open up your self-directed tax-free savings account in Canada, there's a link below for Wealthsimple Trade and Quest Trade, Canada's top 2 discount brokers. So feel free to open up a link through there. You get some free money for doing so, and you can always reach out to me and I will help you navigate the platform to help you get started on the right foot with the proper education. Now, before I ramble on, let's dive in. So Trueleaf has recorded their third quarter, or they've released their third quarter results, entering their 6th state, achieving its 11th consecutive quarter of profitability, which is very impressive. Now, I just want to cover this as well because a lot of these companies, as they eventually move on to U.S. exchanges, with hopefully the Safe Banking Act passing, sooner than later, they will have to start accounting with the GAAP practices. So just to show you the difference, GAAP versus IFRS, they are 2 different accounting principles. Now, most of you will probably be familiar with the generally accepted accounting principles, which use price to earnings ratio and earnings per share, whether in positive or negative sense. Now, since these companies weren't trading on U.S. exchanges and didn't have to use the main U.S. framework, they were using the International Financial Reporting Standards, which is a set of international accounting standards that uses EBITDA for profitability. So that is why you'd see the differences, but nonetheless, Trueleaf made it easy here for us to see that on the IFRS basis, they recorded revenue of $136 million, up 13% from last quarter. Now, their pro forma revenue, which would be revenue included from any acquisitions made as well, that could include their Pennsylvania acquisitions of PurePen and Solivo. In January, this would have put them to $154.9 million, but again, from operations, from what Trueleaf has been working on and what they've been able to bring in from revenue, $136 million is impressive, with positive EBITDA of $67.5 million, and that gives them, for this year so far, after 3 quarters, $73.1 million in cash flow that they've brought in, and they're sitting on $194 million in cash, which is very impressive. If you want to convert that to the generally approved accounting practices, attain positive net income of $17.4 million, or 15 cents per diluted share, which is positive, which is great, meaning that they're profitable. And some highlights for Trueleaf to look out for. So they've actually expanded into Pennsylvania and been awarded a processor permit for West Virginia. So this becomes their 6th state that they've got presence in, which is huge. They were the first to bring edibles into Florida, and opening 9 stores in the third quarter put their total stores nationwide to 68, which is fantastic for Trueleaf as they're growing, harvesting, and selling the cannabis. They're also running these dispensaries. And led by Kim Rivers, one of the top female CEOs, recently awarded top female CEOs as well. So it's just great to see a female leader killing it in the cannabis space as well, because they can. And total revenue for them, again, up 13% from the previous quarter. Revenue, they have gotten their expenses, again, increased a little bit, and their operating expenses are as well. But I think the main thing is, as long as their revenue growth is offsetting their operating expenses over time, that is what we want to see. And again, they've still managed to be profitable. And if you just look year over year, they're up 93%, 132%. This is huge and great to see long term. And again, I'm not as familiar with IFRS because most of what I've studied is like Warren Buffett and generally accepted accounting principles. But nonetheless, it's just great to see positive numbers in here. So that was it for Trueleaf, doing great things in Florida where they're mostly dominating. Now on to Curaleaf. Their pro forma revenue was $215 million, but again, this would have included revenue from a recent acquisition called the brand's Grassroots, which occurred July 1st. So with that acquisition, they'd be up to $215 million. But again, what their operations was, what they've brought in over the last 3 months, all the money they brought in was $193 million, up 164%, pretty massive from last year and in line with company guidance. And so far this year, they've brought in $419 million after 3 quarters. So, they're setting the tone. Looks like they could easily get up to, over $600 million for Q4. So we'll have to keep an eye on them to see how much they can grow as well as they expand. But positive EBITDA, and they are technically the biggest cannabis company with operations across 23 states, and they continue to scale. So it's impressive to see what Trueleaf is doing. Their managed revenue is 193 million. Their total revenue was 182 million. So again, quarter over quarter change is up 59%, which is pretty massive. Year over year change over 100 in all areas, huge. Especially adjusted EBITDA up 305%. Now their gross profit from cannabis sales, 89 million, again up over 110 from last quarter alone, from 42 million. So this is huge. But one thing that you'll notice is, again, as Trueleaf Holdings, as they are spending money in order to expand and scale and find, get other locations in different states, or basically just it costs money to be able to expand your footprint. And it's good that they're doing it early, but that did cause them to suffer a net loss of $9 million, just under 1 cent a share. Now, again, though, it's a good thing to see them keeping this below like 10 million and low numbers, as opposed to Aurora Cannabis and Canopy just burning cash in Canada. But these companies could watch what we did first and not make the same mistakes, which is great. But again, I think this is also just because of how much they're trying to scale, and this is the best time to do it realistically. They've also closed this acquisition, which, again, yes, this solidified them as the largest cannabis company by revenue. They also completed acquisition of Trueleaf, New Jersey, and Maine Organic Therapy assets. But as you can see here, they closed private placement of 24.5 million and they raised 40 million. So because of the debt that they have outstanding, and I'll kind of jump down to that to cover it, they have had to raise money, which does dilute shareholder ownership. Not ideal for investors, but that does happen. So yeah, as of right now, they have 84 million in cash, but 280 million of outstanding debt. So the main thing they need to make sure is that over the next 2-3 quarters, going into Q4 and into next year, they want to make sure that they are shrinking their spending and paying off this debt and allowing, the growth of revenue to offset that. That's at least what I see going forward with them. But it's great to see, wholesale revenue of 45 million, retail revenue of 135, total revenue of 182. So fantastic numbers from Trueleaf, and their Select brand has gotten now into 16 states. They've opened 2 new dispensaries in Florida, so I think the goal now is to scale for these companies that have already got these systems in place. They completed an acquisition in Massachusetts, so that's another location, and voters in 2 key Trueleaf states were approved adult use cannabis, which is New Jersey and Arizona. So New Jersey is going to be huge for them. Think of that in 1 year from now when sales, hopefully they can start as of Jan 2021, but when sales are included. And one good thing is just that you can actually see that Trueleaf is trying to make money to pay off the debt that they owe outstanding. So they divested 31.5 million of assets in Maryland, which means they sold 35.1 million of assets, whether that was real estate, whether that was just something that they owned, in order to optimize their presence. But I think, again, as well, to make sure that they've got cash. So at least, while they're raising money, they are still selling things and using that cash, which is what you want to see out of a company. So good on you, Trueleaf. Well done. As the leader, or at least the biggest company. And then we've got Cresco Labs, which they announced record revenue of 153 million, growth of 59 million, or 63% quarter over quarter. This was amazing. This is their 3rd consecutive quarter with over 40% revenue growth. A lot of these numbers just kind of saying the same thing, but cash flow from operations, 17.8 million. Retail revenue growth, 60% quarter over quarter. That's massive. So this is great to see out of Cresco Labs. And yeah, so they have really scaled up their growth. But so I just want to get down here as well for the 3 months ended. This is last year. This would have been Q2, and this is Q3. Look how much they have scaled up their revenue. And as you can see, they were slowly getting closer to profitability. And for the first time, they have a positive net income of $4.9 million. So you can see that after all of these expenses that we have to subtract, they have turned a profit, which is amazing to see. A good thing as well is they've got a nice amount of cash on hand, current assets of about over 250 million. Their current liabilities are just under 250 million, so they can pay that off. But their total assets, 1.2 billion, definitely outweighs the total amount of liabilities. So that's something that I like to see in Cresco as well. And for this reason, I'm actually going to take a position in Cresco, hopefully by the end of today, as I'm kind of watching the price go down. Now, this is one thing I just wanted to point out. So anyways, amazing from Trueleaf, and Cresco. Fantastic news from these companies. And Todd Harrison is the He's a hedge fund manager for CB1 Capital, and they're focusing on the cannabis industry. So if you don't know him on Twitter, you don't follow him, definitely check him out. He's a good resource because, again, I like to follow people that I trust as opposed to just organizations. That can be dangerous, right? If you watch too much news. But Todd, from our best DC insider, Mitch McConnell is okay with the States Act if wrapped in other legislation. And the States Act would be the one that would allow states to legalize cannabis, and it would allow them to operate with banks. And it would basically say that banks are not going to be held accountable, or they cannot be prosecuted for working with these legal companies. It wouldn't necessarily change the law exactly, but the other great thing is that this quick DC update, the picture added is 15 of 23 Senate banking and insurance members are supporting of moving SAFE Banking Act. And SAFE Banking Act is the one that would just abolish any of this, kind of tight line that they have to walk through. This would allow these companies to list on U.S. exchanges. This would allow these companies to open bank accounts with big institutions, and that would just kind of allow these big investors to get their money into these stocks. So this is why, again, folks, this is likely the best time to get into these companies as it's early. So just to walk through, the thing is that all of these companies have seen quite large rebounds from March, okay? And Green Thumb, I covered them on Sunday's episode of This Week in Cannabis, so if you want to check that out, but they did $157 million in revenue, $9.4 million in earnings, and they were positive 4 cents a share. So nonetheless, though, the one thing I just want to point out is, look, so Trueleaf, they're valued at about $4 billion, and this is on the Canadian exchange, by the way, just what I use to reference, so you can check on the over-counter. But they're valued at $4 billion. They brought in $136 million. Cureleaf brought in $192 million. They are scaling operations, but they are valued at the highest at $6 billion. Now, this is one thing that, again, impressed me, and why I think I will open a position in Cresco is because for what they did, 153, and they've seen more than 40% quarter-over-quarter growth the last 3 quarters, and they've been profitable, and it looks like they've got plenty of cash to pay off their debt. They're only sitting at $2.6 billion, and that's why I actually see the biggest margin of safety with Cresco, because if we compare Green Thumb, who did $157 million in revenue, they're sitting at $4.6 billion. So Cresco has quite a ways to climb, and again, I just think with the momentum, they are going to see some nice advantage and some nice gains from that. And yes, now last but not least, I wanted to introduce you to one more company. They're Canadian-based. They also trade on the NASDAQ, called Village Farms International. Now, I want to thank Anthony Kerwin for bringing this up to me on my page. He asked me about VFF, and I let him know that I actually own this company a little while back when they actually were in a joint venture with another company called Emerald Health Therapeutics. And so recently, though, VFF made an effort to buy 100% ownership of Pure Sun Farms, which is their brand that they sell on the Ontario Cannabis Store and in Canada. And basically, though, if we look at one day, yesterday, Village Farms International ran over 20%. And I was just kind of like, whoa, why? I invested in this company before. This was before that they got 100% ownership. And I just, after about 6 months, I wasn't pleased. And I thought that I would see a jump in share price. It did not come, so I sold for a small loss. Nonetheless, I had emotionally decided to just chuck VFF out the way, not to bother with them. But that's silly because that's my emotions. Of course, there could be opportunity there, so I should not be silly like that. And this is why I'm just going to dive into a bit more detail, because I was like, well, why did they run 20%? Now, here's an important thing to consider. They also trade on the TSX. And, okay, so here, let me just do TSX, and we can see where their market cap is at. I believe on the TSX... Okay, I don't know why. So market cap, though, is about 500 million. That's where, or 530 million, 550 million, that's where VFF is sitting. So they've got a very low market cap relative to a lot of these other companies, but here is what's very interesting. So they are a vegetable distribution network. That is what Village Farms International is, and they decided to get in on the cannabis craze and join into Canada and that's what led them to start growing cannabis. But if you look here, they've already got offices, well, their head office is in Orlando, but they've already got facilities in Texas, in the US, and in Mexico, and in British Columbia. So they've got this distribution network already set up. And, that's something I'd forgotten about, but I was like, wow, there's a good opportunity here for this company, especially with the news that Texas is filing bills for legalization in 2021. So, or at least it seems like they're making an effort to do that. So their brand, Pure Sun Farms, is doing quite well. But this is one thing that I wanted to show you. They are a low-cost producer in Canada, actually might lower-cost producer than Aphria right now, but I still think Aphria will beat them at scale and time, just because they've focused so many resources into making that technology work. But this is what I really caught my attention, is because, yes, when you think about it, when those chains come off, VFF has an opportunity to enter into the US market as well, which I think will be very big. But we can see their outdoor cultivation. There's a joint venture for hemp. So they are actually trying to get in on the hemp opportunity in the US, ready to move forward with hemp production upon FDA regulatory clarity around CBD. So all this means is that they're waiting for more clarity around CBD to get into the hemp game, but there's this Permian Basin, Texas facility licensed by state of Texas for hemp production. Conversion for hemp production can be completed quickly. VFF sees this opportunity here, and because they saw that in the price action yesterday, I now see VFF. So a few impressive things to consider, but they are really selling this point hard, is that, look, we've already got the distribution network in the US. That's why, if we can grow enough cannabis, get our brand up in Canada, again, they're not making as many plays to get the exposure in the US, but I just think this existing distribution network should not be ignored. And the fact that their market cap, again, I'm not sure why it shows here, but it's about 530 million US dollars. So on the TSX, it's about 650 million Canadian dollars. I only know that because I looked at it previously. So but that's very exciting. And just to walk through VFF, since they've gotten 100% ownership of Pure Sunfarms, they have become profitable, and their Pure Sunfarms brands achieved 15.2% dried flower market share on the OCS in October. So for that month alone, they did very well. And I'm not going to go through VFF too much, just because it's a lot of the same stuff, but they're profitable. They look good. And again, if you can see long term with the hemp potential and just that distribution chain, they're going to be selling more, or they're going to be distributing a lot more than vegetables once the US finally makes that change. And I just want to show you as an update, I love to reference Headset.io. This is another reason though why VFF is a strong choice, because good to see Aphria is still holding up number 1 in Ontario, but we can see VFF with Pure Sunfarms here and Pure Sunfarms number 5 and 6. And then if we jump to other provinces, hop over to Alberta, Pure Sunfarms is actually taken over number 1, whereas Aphria is number 2. Namaste is actually taking some more market share, so I'm keeping an eye on them, but also number 9 and 10. So VFF, they are doing well with some of these value price brands as well. So this makes me think that the top 2 choices, at least in Canada for now, as it stands, would be Aphria and VFF. Again, this is my opinion, so do your own research. But Canopy, again, they really are banking heavily on the US legalizing sooner than later, which again I do think is coming, but they need that acreage deal. I think more than acreage needs them, to be honest. And lastly, just Pure Sunfarms is doing well in BC. Aphria is still on this spot, but it's interesting to see how the different brands are selling, performing, and changing over time. So that is it for today's episode, everyone. I hope that wasn't too much, but at least a good kind of, a variety of context in the top US MSOs. So again, make sure though, take a look at the market cap. Just watch the market cap over time, and try to get in when you think that the price is, a good deal for the total value. Because again, you're not investing in a company for the price, you're investing for the market cap. And that is where the opportunity lies. So please comment below. Let me know what MSO you are investing in, or what other Canadian LP you think is a good choice. And again, Anthony, thank you so much. And I just want to show you, just say, hey, that is why you make a plan, and that is why you stick to it. So I'm very glad that you held on to those shares and that you saw some rewards from it. That's just, it's a lesson learned, and good on you for that small victory as well, man. So anyways, everyone, that is it for today's episode. If you liked it, please make sure you leave a like or give a thumbs up. And as well, if you can subscribe to the channel, that way you don't miss any new content coming up. But again, just to reference this, I look forward to some sort of stimulus bill being passed, hopefully later in November or December, which might include the States Act, could include the Safe Banking Act, and that can be the catalyst. So don't wait too long if you find a price that you're happy with. And again, think 5 years, think 10 years into the future. Again, this is generational, I think, when you consider alcohol and prohibition ended, and look how big that's gotten. Cannabis is likely going to be the next opportunity in that sense. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on Sunday for the next one.